Welcome to the TalentGrow Show, where you can get actionable, results-oriented insight and advice on how to take your leadership, communication, and people skills to the next level and become the kind of leader people want to follow. And now, your host and leadership development strategist, Halelly Azulay.
Hey there, talent growers. This is Halelly Azulay. I'm your leadership development strategist here at TalentGrow, and this is episode 123 of the TalentGrow Show. A solo episode. As you know, about 3 times a month, I do an interview with someone very interesting to help you develop your leadership and communication skills, your career in general, or your self-leadership skills. And about once a month, I do a solo episode where either I answer a question on an Ask Halelly episode, or I share something that is usually coming straight from one of my books, one of my blog posts, one of my workshops, one of my speaking engagements, to help you grow. This example came up recently in a workshop, and it's come up lots of times in the past. It comes up everywhere. Everywhere I look, I see examples of poor listening. But the problem is that when I gave some feedback to the woman in the workshop who was using this really poor listening behavior during a role play, I asked her, "Hey, are you aware of your behavior?" And she said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "It's probably not going to work quite as well this way. Why don't we try it?" I thought she was just blowing off the role play. You know, sometimes people do that in a workshop. And she said, "No, this is how the executives in my company behave. And I've learned to do it too." Whoa, definitely not okay. And I wanted to share it with you. All right. So I'm going to share with you what she did and why that is an example of poor listening. We're going to talk about some other examples of poor listening. And we're going to talk about why it's important. So I hope that you're ready. Please listen to this episode. All right, here we go. So here's the scene. This is a communication skills workshop. And these are high potential aspiring leaders in a very big organization, one of the big consulting firms. These people have been targeted as future leaders of the organization and receive this additional training to help them build their communication skills. And we were talking about how to have the critical conversations that are often very difficult to have, but super important. And as part of the workshop, we have trios that practice role-playing a future conversation so that they can practice the new skills, practice using the model that we go over in the workshop, and practice getting some feedback about their communication skills. So it's about how you have the conversation, the kinds of content that you have in the conversation, but also very important, the how you conduct yourself during the conversation makes a huge difference in how the information lands with the person you're speaking with. And that's one of the big messages of this workshop. So this woman, who has already demonstrated herself to be definitely high achiever, very motivated, very driven, very smart, just like most of these people are, she was sitting in during a role play and looking at her phone and typing on her phone pretty much the whole time during the role play. So when I stopped by their trio, as I kind of float around and give feedback to the different trios that are concurrently having role plays, I looked at her for a bit just to make sure that I wasn't misinterpreting what was going on. Maybe it wasn't her turn to role play. Maybe she had to take an important message or something. But no, she was interacting in the role play as if she was having an important conversation with someone and driving the conversation. And at the same time, she was clicking on her phone. So I said, "Are you aware that you're on your phone?" And she said, oh yes, I'm multitasking. And I said, "So I'd love for you to role play as if this was for real so that it can be the most effective." And she said, "Oh, I would do this if it were for real. All of the executives in my company do this too. And we're really good at multitasking. So this is part of me developing leadership skills. I have to become good at multitasking." No, when you have an important conversation with someone, you can't be multitasking. So she wanted to argue about it, and I had to put my foot down. This is not okay behavior, but I do know that it happens. I know that you might be seeing examples from the role models that you're trying to emulate doing this, but it doesn't make it okay. It doesn't. Here's the problem. How does it make you feel if you're on the receiving end of having a conversation that's really important, that has the potential of creating a misunderstanding, that has the potential of creating a conflict, that has some kind of an emotional undertone, that has consequences to the relationship, an important relationship at work, at home, wherever. And you're on the receiving end of someone who seems to be multitasking as they speak to you. They're clicking on their computer, or they're clicking on their phone, or they just seem to be doing something else while you're talking. How does it feel? I'm sorry. There is no way that you can sell me on the fact that it feels good or that you're indifferent. I know some people try to say that, and maybe you're trying to build up thick skin, and maybe you're trying to shed the part of you that gets annoyed or offended. But I want to tell you, it's normal for you to feel slighted, and you're not supposed to try to shed that. Well, okay, if everybody's doing it, you have to figure out a way to deal with it. But what I really want you to hear from me here is two wrongs don't make a right. I know your mom told you this once, right? Just because other people might be doing it, it doesn't make it right. And I really don't want you to do it to others, because this is not effective leadership. It is not effective communication skills. It is not effective listening. Not only does science show us over and over again in studies that people are not able to multitask on executive function skills. In other words, your brain actually cannot do a couple of different things that require executive function level participation of your brain. What it does is it tries to switch quickly between the two tasks. And then there is what is called switch cost, which is 25 to 40% of your productivity goes to waste between trying to do two different executive function things at the same time, aka multitasking, and between doing one at a time of two things and finishing. You actually finish less efficiently with less quality when you try to multitask. So stop it. You can't multitask. You can multitask folding laundry and listening to a podcast. You can multitask listening to something important and doodling maybe, but not really thinking deeply about something that somebody's saying and at the same time formulating an email message to someone on your phone. You cannot do it. Your brain doesn't work that way. But beyond the actual content being potentially misinterpreted, right? You may actually have problems in the reception of the information. You also have problems with the reception of the emotional information about the conversation, because what you are communicating to the other person, if you're trying to multitask while listening, is you are saying to them, in effect, and I know that this may not be your intention, but intention and impact are not equal. You may be received as saying to them, you are not important enough. Talking to you is not important enough to receive 100% of my attention. And whether or not they read that message from you consciously or not, their subconscious is reading this message from you. And this gets stored as part of the information about the relationship with you. And it does damage to the relationship because this person feels that you are making them less important than they think that they should be. And when you damage trust and damage the closeness of the relationship, you are causing damage that will be there the next time you need to talk to this person, that will be there the next time they interpret a message from you, that will be there when you try to deliver constructive feedback without offending them, that will be there when you need something from them and they don't feel like they want to go out of their way because you have demonstrated to them something that is slighted or damaging to the trust between you. So I beseech you, I implore you, please, when you're listening, especially in important relationships, especially during important conversations, but in general, put the phone down and pay close attention. Make eye contact. Listen with your whole brain and your whole body. Listen. It will actually take less time to have that conversation than when you're trying to multitask. And it will make a huge positive impact on your relationship, or at least prevent causing a negative impact to the relationship that this kind of distracted listening can create. I feel like I've been on a soapbox. I don't know how this is received by you and whether this is something you're experiencing. I'd love to hear from you. But in general, just because people are doing it wrong does not make it suddenly right. And you can't suddenly jump evolution in a short amount of time now that you are a manager, now that you are a leader. You can't suddenly shortcut the evolutionary, deep-seated ways of your brain as a human. So we can't ignore that stuff. We have to take it into consideration, keep it in mind, and be smart and strategic in how we communicate so that we are creating the best chance of successful communication. So I wanted to share that with you today, and I hope that this is something that you'll practice going forward. Start noticing, how do people pay attention to you when you're talking to them? How are you paying attention to them when they're speaking to you? Before we wrap up, I wanted to share with you a short Apple Podcasts review that I've received, or the show has received. It's the new name for iTunes, and it is where reviews make a big difference, because when people are searching for new shows and they just happen to discover this show based on a suggestion from the algorithm, or based on a search by keyword, or because other people that they follow are also listening to it for whatever reason, they're usually going to go and look at the reviews to see, hey, is this a good show to listen to? So leaving the show a review is something that is so helpful. And I really appreciate it. So this one came in from Spunky Misfit Girl. That's kind of a cute name. And she says the title of her review is Super Useful for Leaders. And it goes like this. Halelly does a great job leading the conversation in a way that's useful and logical, as well as enjoyable to listen to. And she has incredible guests with a lot of wisdom to share who might not be the ones you've already heard from elsewhere. I really appreciate this review, Spunky Misfit Girl, and I really appreciate you listening to the Talent Grow Show, and that you took the time to say these nice things and help other people choose to take a little bit of time and listen to this show and give it a chance. All right, you listener, talent growers, please take the time and leave me a positive review. I will really be appreciative, and I can read it on the show. So I hope to see that from you. And this is it for another episode of the Talent Grow Show. I'm Halelly Azulay, your leadership development strategist here at Talent Grow. Thanks for listening. And until the next time, make today great.
Thanks for listening to the Talent Grow Show, where we help you develop your talent to become the kind of leader that people want to follow. For more information, visit talentgrow.com.